Good morning. I hope everybody that listens is keeping well. Wanted to share some of my thoughts, ideas, concepts, opinions about what's going on in the world. I try to use reason, I try to use wisdom, facts. I try my best. And the thing I love the most is to get corrected. Um, there's always winners in a debate, there's always winners in a discourse. Of course, if you get beaten by the truth, right, not by deception, if you get beaten by truth, then you should be thankful because your path has been corrected and you're no longer dwelling in foolishness. So I was listening to this news, article, TV article on the YouTube. And it was about this factory that has been open for countless generations. Um, they have no choice but to close doors. They simply can't compete with the prices from abroad, the prices from globalization, and the new climate laws. They simply can't stay open because of that. So they decided to shut down this factory that was, I don't know, 100 plus years old. They were specialized in glass and jars, anything to do with bottles, and even decoration, I suppose. I wasn't looking at the images. I was just listening because I was doing something else. That's how I do sometimes things. So I think I had to do everything with glass. They were interviewing the personnel, the people who work there, all their lives, and they were shocked because it was such a successful factory, and now it was bitten by the laws of the environmental laws and the prices from abroad. This is reality all over this part of the world. The elites, the club, they simply don't care about those things. They are highly invested in globalism. You see, they don't care about the details anymore of their local farms and local people. They don't care about those things. Now, people who still have some wisdom, they are getting into a parallel society and into a parallel economy. Those are the intelligent ones. That's how you do it. You create a parallel because eventually their idealism will result in failure. That's how these things always go about. This new globalist movement is nothing new. From time to time, it just comes along, you know, like an old acquaintance or an old girlfriend or boyfriend just comes along 20 years later or something. Hey, remember me? Do you want to do it again? Let's try, a relationship. What? You see, they come around like nothing happened. The situation that we are going through is similar to what happened with the Bolshevik Revolution, you see. It's the same thing. Factories are closing down. They are being taxed to death. And at the same time, they can't compete with the prices from, open borders. It's madness. This will cause unemployment. For instance, car companies are declaring bankruptcy, and entire cities are going out of revenue. I'm not going to say any names, but the number one or number two car company that sells most cars around the world, it's a German company, and there's like entire villages that was emanated literally around these factories, with houses, with shops, with cafe, with restaurants. People are selling their house and moving because the factory is going bankruptcy, and nobody cares because it's part of their agenda, the agenda of net zero. Nobody is saying this, but the factory is bankrupting not because it lacked, clients. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. How can I put this? uh, it's not going bankrupt because the economy is bad. No, it's not because the economy is bad. People still want cars, but not the cars that they are building. That's the thing they don't tell you. They dedicated, I don't know, 80%, 90% of their resources into building these new cars that run on batteries, and nobody wants them. They can't sell them, so they have no other choice but to close doors. You see, they don't listen to the customer. This is when we get into communism and fascism. They don't care about the customer. They care about the ideology, the net zero, you know, the degrowth economy. A degrowth economy, what do you mean by that, degrowth? It's going to create famine, absolutely. They are destroying industry because of the environment. Because you are closing factories doesn't mean that they are not going to work elsewhere. The ideology, I mean, like any dogma, right? It doesn't make any sense. Just because you are closing down this, factory here because of the climate doesn't mean it's going to work elsewhere. And that's exactly what it's doing. It's working elsewhere. They tackle the industry, then they tackle the agriculture. You see, these technocrats have no clue where food comes from. They think food emanates in the shelves. Yeah, they think water emanates in the pipes. Water and food emanates, like magic. And now they are tackling the agricultural system as well. They see people eating, these genetic modified foods, extremely processed and grown in laboratory. And as a protein supplement, it would be some sort of insects, which insects have been created in factories for a long time to feed pets, pet lizards, etc. But like some, completely nut cases, like that country that I can't even say, they feed their population in insects, and they want to do the same to the people around here. It's crazy. Uh, in the Bolshevik Revolution, after that, Stalin took over because Lenin, he had poor health, and Stalin took over. And Stalin wasn't the first choice. Absolutely not. Everybody knew he was a nutcase. Even the Bolsheviks was afraid of him. And when he took over, he started nationalizing agriculture. They always do this, and that's what they're trying to do now. It's the technocrats that will control agriculture. They will control what you eat. It's not the customer, that the person that decides what they want to eat. No, it's going to be the technocrats. And eventually millions of people went into famine and died from malnutrition, and nobody really talks about this because it's everything stinks of technocracy, and they don't want people to know technocracy is actually one of the sources of great evil. They don't want people to know that. You literally dehumanize you people when you are focused on documents, numbers, and statistics. You dehumanize. And if your purpose has an ideological purpose behind it, then you will squeeze those numbers, in order to fit the net zero or degrowth or whatever it is. In reality, will cause people to go into starvation. Eventually, this concept came along, which is quite satirical. It's a satirical concept called Lysenkoism. It's their pseudo-scientific way of dealing with agriculture in the times of Stalin. You can still find this online, Lysenkoism. They had this pseudo way of, they thought they could, create food using, I don't know, this pseudo-scientific method. I can't really explain. But it was like, if you play music, and if you play music to the plants, they will, And if you read the manifesto, there was another concept: read the Communist Manifesto to the plants, they will also grow faster, and stuff like that. They had the or play music from, the like those tunes from the fascists. They had these tunes, and if they play that music and read from the scriptures, that everything was going to flourish and feed everybody, which wasn't true at all. You know, it resulted in millions departing the world prematurely. It wasn't concentration camps. This is the sort of thing that they would call the Dark Ages or a plague. There's no such thing as the Black Plague. No, it was simply bad management, and people starved. When the Christians took over, after the fall of the pagan Roman Empire, the same situation, presented itself. The technocrats, they couldn't understand, nothing about agriculture, but their desire to control people's destinies, they forced people into starvation with their nonsense. That's what they call the Dark Ages. People with no nutrition eventually, it's similar to the four horses of the apocalypse. And I don't like mentioning this, but it starts with war. People just don't understand each other. Then war causes famine, right? War, famine, disease comes after famine. When you are malnourished, you develop all sorts of diseases, and your children are born extremely weak and diseased as well. Bad nutrition causes it, and then after that comes death. That's the Dark Ages. And I think, I don't want this to happen, but it seems, there's people that can't live, especially, retired people can no longer live in their home countries because things are gone really bad, you know, because of these degrowth and net zero politics. Um, Now, there's going to be people who's going to go parallel. Obviously, there's always people who think outside the box, and they are, acquiring land and farming for themselves. Uh, but they are a minority. The cities is where most people is concentrated, which is scary to me, because if there's a panic and a lack of nourishment, from these policies, they will start, at each other. They will start going crazy, and all these communities that develop parallel will be overrun by these starving, almost like a zombie apocalypse. So during the China, all these revolutions, okay, the problem always is the rich or the aristocrats. And once they are done pillaging the rich and the aristocrats, the problem becomes the population. You know, it's a self-consuming thing. Yeah, it self-consumes. It doesn't generate anything. It's almost like some people characterize this, as almost like this virus that develops in cultures that are successful. And there's this ideology, like, again, comes around like an ex, years later, trying to rebuild a relationship with you. It comes along and says, you guys are so filthy rich, let's do this and this and that. And it's so, people get so possessed by those ideas, those ideologies. They can't see the hell they are unleashing around them. It just self-destroys from the inside because they can't produce anything. They just consume. They just consume the hard-working, because as a culture, for instance, Western culture is on the shoulders of our ancestors. It was out of their sweat that we built all this infrastructure. Yeah, and it will be quite easy to destroy it if you don't maintain it. Yeah, if you go about with these crazy ideologies that don't produce anything and just destroy, consume, it's easier to destroy than to create. Yes, and there's a saying about war. It's a lot more profitable to destroy, then to rebuild. It's something like that, to build. It's something like that. I can't remember right now the saying, but it was some guy, some war general who said it. It's a lot more powerful to destroy sometimes, and that's what these elites are seeing, because their future is assured. They invested in globalist companies. They couldn't care less about the locals. The locals was almost like their chattel. Think of it in terms as an agricultural exploration. They see people as their farm animals, and they've been exploiting these animals until now, but now they found other areas to exploit and they just abandoned this one. That's how they think. Oh man. It's for the environment. A thing, Lysenkoism, pseudoscientific, this pseudoscientific movement about the climate. The thing that most people don't understand is that they share your vocabulary. They might use the same words that you do, but the meaning, the dictionary meaning of those words is different from them. You have to go through their grimoires to decipher what they are saying, actually. And it's quite scary because words like what's a human, or nature, or these buzzwords that they use all the time, equality or equity, or for them it means something else. It's not the definition that you see in the dictionaries, you know. It's not. It's crazy. It's actually very, very crazy. Anyway, there's enough information online about these subjects to anyone that is interested. But most people are too busy, it's true, too busy with their lives. I mean, if you have a mainstream job and family, which are growing in numbers nowadays, families, the economy has become so ridiculous that you have a couple, a man and a woman, that come together by miracle, because it's very difficult nowadays to get together. If they come together by miracle, they have to work both a full-time job. One pays the bills and the other pays, for food, and they are struggling. It's crazy. I think people have put too much trust in this thing called the mainstream economy. You should invest in skills and producing things yourself than to, specialize yourself in a single thing and hope that you will buy everything already, built, everything already created. That's the lie that's sold in university system. Yeah, go do a degree and you can buy everything, ready after that. You'll have the prestige of having a diploma. You are above the populace. But no, that's not true at all. The more time you spend in these institutions, getting your diplomas, the more dumb you are, actually. The world is full of 200 IQ fools that think deeply but can't think clearly, you know. Their head is full of facts, but they have no wisdom at all. Lysenkoism, that's when we end up with Lysenkoism, pseudoscientific, full of facts and figures. Oh, they have the figures and the statistics and the computer models. And, we know everything. We have a 200 IQ. The problem with the IQ test, it doesn't test for ingenuity, creativity. It doesn't test if you're a good person. You know, it doesn't test your ethics. It doesn't test you in those things. Spontaneity, doesn't test on creativity. You know, I feel that if you're around, people who work in construction or work, cleaning the streets, they have actually better, interesting things to say. Then they are more human and more relatable than these doctorates and PhDs and whatnot. These people are so full of themselves. The hubris, they are so full of hubris, you know. So I think I'm gonna shut up now.